Good morning. This is Introduction to Algebra on March 19th for Thursday. We're going to talk today about two-step problems, two-step equations. Now that sounds complicated, but it's not, because you learned way back at the beginning of the school year with Mrs. Turner that if you have a formula, all you have to do is write down the formula, substitute the formula, and then solve it. And that's all there is really to today's process, except we're not using a formula, we're using an equation. Let me explain what I mean. Look at the board. It says, if 2x plus 4 equals 6, then what is the value of 3x minus 7? Now, I cannot solve 3x minus 7 because it doesn't equal anything. But if I knew what x was, I could solve it. Well, over here, it tells me that 2x plus 4 equals 6. This I can solve. So I'm going to solve this equation first. Okay, so we're going to write down 2x plus 4 equals 6. Now, that's an equation that we can do. We've done lots of equations like that this year. We know first, whatever it says to do, we're going to do the opposite. Okay, so it says to add 4, so we're going to subtract 4. And we know that whatever we do on the left, we must do on the right. Okay, so these are going to cancel, leaving us 2x equals 2. Now we know that 2x means to multiply, so we're going to divide. So 2x divided by 2. And again, whatever I do on the left, I must do on the right. So 2 divided by 2. This is going to cancel, leaving me only x, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So as you can see, it's kind of hard for you to see there at the bottom of the screen, but, but x equals 1. Now, if x equals 1, now I can solve this equation. So I'm going to say 3x minus 7. Well, I know what x is because this just told me that x was 1. So here's your equation. Now substitute your equation. 3 times 1 minus 7. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. And then we have minus 7. 3 minus 7 is negative 4. So if 2x plus 4 equals 6, then I know that 3x minus 7 equals a negative 4. Let's try this again with another problem. I'm going to turn the little iPad over here a little bit so you can see it. See if I move it down, it might be a little easier, guys. All right, there we go. Now, we said over here, if 4x minus 2 is 3, then what is 2/5 x minus 1/4? We're going to do this with the fractions in it the exact same way we did this problem over here with whole numbers. We're going to do the same way. There's nothing different about it, okay? So write down the equation that we can solve. Well, I know that 4x minus 2 equals 3. I can solve that. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this minus 2 by doing the opposite. I'm going to add 2. When I do that, I have 4x, because these are going to cancel, equals 3 plus 2 is 5. Now I need to get rid of this 4x. I need to get x by itself. It has to have a value. So to do that, I need to get rid of the 4. 4x means to multiply, so you know that we are going to, that is correct, we're going to divide. Okay? These cancel, leaving us x, so x equals 5/4. Okay? So x equals 5/4. We said 4x divided by 4 left us x, and 5 divided by 4, well, that's a fraction, and we're just going to leave it that way. Now, since x equals 5/4, take that x and put it in my new equation at the top. My equation up here was 2/5 x minus 1/4. Okay, well, 2/5 x tells me that I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply 2/5 times x, and x we learned was 5/4. So we're going to write 2/5 times 5/4. Does everybody see where I got the 5/4? It's the answer down here. Solving this question, this is x. Take this answer and substitute it up here. Since it's a letter next to a number, we know that we're multiplying. Now we're going to minus 1/4. Now, of course, I know I have to multiply before I can subtract because that's the orders of operation. So looking only at your multiplication portion, what can I cancel? Well, I can cancel the 2 and make it a 1 and the 4 into a 2. I can cancel my 2 5s, making each of them a 1. So when I multiply, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm going to minus 1/4. Now, we know from elementary school, you cannot subtract 1/2 minus 1/4. They have to be common denominators. So the common denominator is going to be 1/4. So to make this 1/4, I'm going to say 2/4 minus 1/4. My answer is 1/4. Let me move that so you can see it. All I did was make common denominators and then subtract. And I got 1/4. Now, I want you to write this one on your paper. I want you to write this down on your paper. Okay, let's do 2x, if 2x minus 4 equals 6, then what is the value of 3x plus 2? Now, I'm going to erase my board. We're going to work it out together. Go ahead and look at it. What's the first thing we're going to do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is write down our first equation again. We said that if 2x minus 4 equals 6, okay, if that's the equation, and I want to know then what does 3x plus 2 equal? Because I don't know, okay? Go to the first one. 2x minus 4 equals 6. Well, it says minus 4, so we're going to add 4. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we have 2x equals 10. Now I know that when I have 2x, I need to divide. So 2x divided by 2, whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I got to keep them balanced. It's got to be a seesaw. I've got to keep them balanced. X then, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So x equals 5. Okay, so x equals 5. Now, I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to put it into substitute it into my equation. So I have 3 times 5 plus 2. Well, 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2 is 17. So if 2x minus 4 equals 6, then that means that x equals 5. And if x equals 5, then I can say that 3x plus 2 is 17. So when you're doing these problems today, all you have to do is remember, solve the one that you know, which is the one that's going to have the equals mark. Once you know what x is, substitute x into the second equation to find the second answer. Today, you're going to do quiz 77 and 78. That's the front and the back of the papers that I gave you. Okay? Then I want you to do 1 through 10 of problem set 98. Make sure when you do it, you put the date, you put the problem set number, you put your name, and then when it's finished, you put it away. Once you have done the problem set and you have done the worksheets, the paper worksheet that I gave you front and back, then take your quiz online. Those quizzes and this work are to help you prepare for the quiz online. Do not lose your work. Now this scratch paper here, I don't need that, but your problem set needs to have the problem set. It needs to have the date. It needs to have your name. You are going to be confused. I am going to be confused. When you come back to school and you hand me this whole set of papers, then they don't have, well, actually, I'm not going to be confused because I'm not going to grade them. I'm going to hand them back to you and say, figure out what this is. Okay? So tonight's assignment is to do quiz 77 and 78, front and back. Then do problem set 98, 1 through 10. Make sure you date it and you don't lose it. Put it away where you won't lose it. All right. See you later.